half in the bag.
I can't talk too long. I gotta poo.
I'm on moviediaper.com. I'm trying to see what new films have been released, Jay, to see what we should go watch this afternoon.
How about the new Rambo movie?
No, I hear that movie makes you racist.
Oh. Well, at least in a couple weeks we have the Joker movie to look forward to.
No, I hear that movie makes you sexist.
Oh. Well, maybe we should just watch The Fanatic with John Travolta.
Sure, but I hear that movie makes you mentally challenged.
Too late.
Well, Jay, before we go watch this film, let's see the Rotten Tomatoes score. Oh my God!
Is it difficult to find famous people's houses?
I use my Star Map app. You have to be careful. I don't want you to be accused of stalking.
Hey, you can't just come to my private residence looking for me.
Well, today we skipped the new Brad Pitt film, Ad Astra.
Ed Asner?
Ed Asner,
Is it Brad Pitt as Ed Asner?
It's a biopic.
Okay.
Ed Asner as a younger man. Ed Asner did go to the Mars, though, in his dreams once. So this is based on, Ad Astra is based on Ed Asner's dream of going to Mars.
Oh, okay.
I had this dream once. So we skipped Ad Astra to watch a film, an obscure film for some reason called The Fanatic.
Yes, yes.
Watch out! Watch out! Here's Moosey!
And this is a film that's produced by Redbox.
Yes, because every outlet has to like produce their own original content now. Even Redbox, even the bottom of the barrel, little red machine that you look at when you're leaving the grocery store.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, it's not out in Redbox yet.
No.
I think that would be the first place it should go.
Well, I guess John Travolta had a stipulation similar to his movie Gotti that came out that was produced by MoviePass, which recently died, which I was shocked to find out it was still around. But that was produced by MoviePass, but he was like, it's got to be in theaters. I think it's that like old school movie star ego thing.
Okay.
Where he wanted that movie and this movie to be in theaters for a little bit before being dumped. So it came out in theaters.
The Fanatic did?
The Fanatic came out in theaters opening day. It made $3,000. It played on 52 screens, which was an average of about $60 per theater.
Wow, Space Cops made more money.
That's true.
It literally is true. Oh, well, that's interesting. I did not know it had a theatrical run. I figured it 2 screens, one in New York and one in LA, and then...
Just so it could get some awards attention.
So it could be considered for an Academy Award.
Absolutely.
John Travolta, you know, he has a specific pattern of release. He's a movie star.
I don't know if that excuses the other 15 movies he's done in the last 2 years.
John Travolta is the Nick Cage of actors. But yeah, we are not. This is not a paid endorsement of this film, even though
that'll become more clear as time goes on.
You'll soon find out. But we just really wanted to talk about this because it's fascinating. When you see those, like, I think there's a different Travolta movie in the Redbox called Trading Paint.
Yes.
And you see these like kind of, I don't want to say washed up, these celebrities that have been around a while appearing in lower budgeted movies that are made to look like big budget movies in the Redbox.
Often made overseas.
Often made overseas, or Spain or France, and then
John Travolta, Nicolas Cage does a lot of them. There's some other ones that keep showing up in these things.
John Cusack, yeah, you know, so it's like they're not A-listers anymore, but they work.
Yeah.
This one particularly tickled our fancy based on the portrayal of the character Moose by John Travolta.
I wish Freddy Krueger would come and chop off your head, and it would roll in the street, and a truck would squish it, and the blood would splatter everywhere, and everyone would watch it.
We don't want to use the R word, regal, because his performance was stunning.
He plays a mentally challenged person, and there seems to be there's something about the ego of these actors. Like so many of them have tried to do that, where it just comes across embarrassing.
Speaking of that, this is the perfect time to show some Rosie O'Donnell clips.
Jesse's delicious. He's gonna take me today to get a new toilet seat because mine got broken and was sliding. So I would fall off of it like, whoa. We need some help, I'll get it. Can we have assistance, please, in row number 1 for toilet seat? Hello? Toilet seat assistance in row number 1, thank you. Would you like a cookie? It's chocolate flavor, very nutritious. Yes, I'm okay, because I'm the sheriff. Yeah. I put 7 red fishies inside of this can. Do you think they can swim in cola?
Well, as Robert Downey Jr. told us in blackface, never go full Regal, right? So here's John Travolta wearing the worst toupee ever. Clearly a toupee, but it's meant to look like a bad Regal haircut.
It's kind of a mullet, and it's shaved on the sides.
It's amazing.
And he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt every scene.
You know, though, like, I found his performance mesmerizing.
Well, that's the thing.
I thought he was really good.
Legitimately good?
Yeah.
Yeah, just have a strawberry milkshake with real ice cream, please.
Yeah, we don't have milkshakes, but I can make you a cocktail or pour you a soda.
No thanks. Just want a shake.
This is the most shocking thing I've ever heard.
I mean, okay, we're going to talk, we've set up our film. We should mention that it's directed by Fred Durst, the former singer of Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, see, I'm kind of on the opposite end, where I think John Travolta is embarrassing in this movie. The rest of the movie, like, it's people are saying it's the worst thing ever. It's not that bad. It looks pretty good, like visually. It's not a good movie, but it's like whatever. It's very surface level as far as what it's trying to say about like fans and their relationship with celebrities and all that. It's so surface level, but it's like an acceptable enough movie. But then you drop John Travolta's performance in it, and that's what elevates the entire thing.
Elevates it to what, comically bad?
Comical, yeah.
See, I found John Travolta and even Devon Sawa, I thought he was great in it.
He was very good in the movie, yeah.
And I thought the performances stood out as being good in a movie that was, you know, well shot, well lit, well executed in a way, but had lots of like logic flaws.
Yeah. Oh, and, yeah. The script has bizarre choices.
It's not a movie that you watch and just laugh the whole time because how bad it is.
No.
It's a fascinating movie. It draws you in, and it has this like power over you that you have to keep watching it.
Sure.
I thought John Travolta nailed it, and not in a.
But what is it?
That was hysterical.
And not in a I'm laughing at him embarrassing himself way. And this is, I think, where we're going to disagree.
I guess so.
I really enjoyed his performance as a person who is, I don't know, barely on the spectrum and falling off the edge, perhaps, whatever that means. You know what I mean? Like, what is it, Asperger's or
whatever he's supposed to have in this. Yeah,
there is something clearly wrong with him, and to the point where he can barely function in society.
Yeah,
and he should be institutionalized.
You rock my head and you rattle my head. You rock it like I go to bed.
I think the disconnect comes from maybe if this character was in like a real movie, it'd be different. But as it stands in this movie, like it's like almost whatever he decided to do as an actor, like Fred Durst was just like, okay. And it felt almost, to me, it felt like the whole movie was made as like a prank on John Travolta to embarrass him.
I'm in Hunter Dunbar's house.
There's that part when he breaks into Devon Sawa's house and he's just wandering around and the camera just holds on him. And for some reason, there's like antlers there.
Yeah.
Moose is in the house.
Who's in the house? Watch out! Watch out!
And it goes on and on.
There are moments where you can tell Travolta was allowed to improv.
And as we've probably discussed before, most actors are crazy and they love themselves, and when you let them just loose, it leads to disaster.
There's one part where he's like, John Travolta's improving.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Dunbar. I have every one of your VHSs and DVDs. That's like, everybody says that. Say something. And
then he goes like, say something and then they cut the camera, and you know he was going to say something stupid.
Yeah.
Say something.
Like, you know that was coming out, and he stopped himself from saying it, but they left it in the movie. It was weird.
See, I didn't notice that particular one, but there's another part where his paparazzi friend, who looks like a teenager, and who also narrates the film for no reason.
There was a post-production choice.
But you don't need it. She's narrating the film. One, she's not a lead in the movie. There's no reason for that particular character to be narrating it. But also, all she's saying is exactly what we're seeing, because the movie's not very deep. It's like, oh, we get it. Fans can become obsessed and develop a parasocial relationship. It's her little voiceover things were so like hitting you over the head.
Yeah.
This place will suck the life right out of you. Some people pick themselves up after getting the shit knocked out of them. Others break down like an old station wagon.
But there's a part when she comes over to his house and she says something about, like, you're acting like a maniac.
Maniac, that's a great movie. Not the crappy remake. That was overrated.
But then as he's walking away, he continues and he's like, the remake is the good one. It's like, you just contradicted yourself.
Maniac, that's a great movie. Not the crappy remake. That was overrated. It's a new one I like.
Don't change the subject.
And it's just in the movie. No second takes.
He's not a god. He's full of doo-doo. He doesn't respect Hollywood. I respect Hollywood. Yeah.
Moose, who rides a moped around Hollywood, and he humps his moped while he's riding it.
Well, he never stops doing this the whole movie.
He does the rocking thing because that's what crazy people do.
Is that offensive though? Is that a crazy thing, or is that a he's autistic thing, or he's mentally challenged thing?
Not sure.
In this movie, it's all one thing.
It's Forrest Gump meets Taxi Driver.
Sure.
What his choices are just based on things that have happened in other movies.
Yeah.
The Rain Man tick, he's always grabbing his ear. That's like a thing. The rocking back and forth is pretty typical of, I'm going to portray a person who's, I don't know, has something wrong with them.
Yeah.
You snap mentally from stress, or you have a mental breakdown, you rock, right? That's always in movies.
Yeah.
Show a mental institution. Everybody knows that. What it's from, what it's attributed to, I don't know, but that's what he does. So he has a friend, a girl who looks like she could play a high schooler.
Yes.
Who is a paparazzi. She's friends with Moose.
For some reason.
How do you guys find celebrity houses? How do you find them?
I think the general premise is that the people that work in the underbelly of the Hollywood scene, whether it's the tourism part or the celebrity part, all kind of are interconnected and know each other. Whether it's the guy in the shop who sells merchandise or props and signed posters or whatever, there's that guy.
Yeah.
There's the street performer guy who runs a con with his friend where they pickpocket. Moose, John Travolta dresses up as an English Bobby.
This goes into my theory that the movie was made to ridicule John Travolta. The English Bobby stuff was just bizarre.
Welcome to Hollywood, where dreams are made of. Place where dreams are made of. Where dreams are made.
Well, I'm assuming it's based more on the fact, because Hollywood Boulevard, you have all the people in Spider-Man costumes and Captain America and Captain Jack Sparrow. You don't have an English Bobby. And it's like, well, we don't have the rights to any of this stuff. He's an English Bobby. And that particular decision, they filmed, I think it might even be done guerrilla style, because most of the movie was not shot in Hollywood. But those particular sequences are on Hollywood Boulevard. And he's doing this embarrassing English accent. He's practicing in the mirror, which is, I've had it stuck in my head since I saw the movie like a week ago, where he keeps going, poppycock!
Poppycock!
Poppycock.
It's pathetic. There's no fun to it.
Yeah.
Like if he was like Spider-Man, say, right? It would have some kind of like levity to it. It would be interesting.
I thought there was a lot of levity to him as the English Bobby.
But I mean in a way where it's like everyone kept walking past him, and it's pathetic because he chose such an undesirable character. You're in Hollywood and you're playing like an English police officer with a nightstick and the goofy hat.
London Bridge is right over there. It's over. The Beatles are here. The Beatles are here.
And it's like no one wants a picture with that. They want a picture with the Marilyn Monroe character, or you know, someone dressed up as like.
Or they're mesmerized by the magician guy, I guess.
Yes, or you know, Charlie Chaplin, or icons of Hollywood. That has nothing, and it's like he doesn't get it, and then he's trying to do the accent, and the accent's bad intentionally.
Oh, sure, that's definitely intentionally bad, but it's still.
Yeah, it's weird, it's like the thing to me is like with his awful haircut and his weird mannerisms and his outfits and his socks pulled up, and he seems like a real crazy person who could really exist and who would do that in real life. And to me, knowing that kind of person is out there, on the streets and not in a mental institution, is really sad.
Hello, Tracy.
Hello, Tracy.
Hello, Tracy. Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper.
But see, that's the thing is, I think this will be forgettable because to me, it's not laughably bad. It's not Rosie O'Donnell bad.
No, well, and that's the thing too that I wanted to bring up is every year there's like that 1 or 2 movies that comes out that the internet kind of like collectively tries to make like the new best worst movie.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember 9 Lives, the talking cat movie with Kevin Spacey? That came out a few years ago. No one remembers that movie, but at the time it came out, oh man, this is the new terrible movie. And people have been trying to do that with this movie, and I think it's not that bad. I think John Travolta is what makes it fascinating, but it's also not a very good movie. So I think it's a unique movie in certain respects. John Travolta's performance and some of the weird choices, narrative choices that we'll get into.
I guess, remember there was a movie that also, I think it's the trailer too, where you watch it and you go, what the fuck? I remember after Mel Gibson said horrible anti-Semitic things and beat up a police officer or something, shortly after that he came out in a movie directed by Jodie Foster.
Oh, The Beaver,
where he puppeteered a beaver.
Right.
And everyone was like, what?
There's a beaver? He talks to a beaver? And then the movie's like the sappy drama, and nobody saw it, and now it's gone forever.
So this is probably in that category, but this movie's worth a watch as a good like study of how things can go right and wrong. Because to me, there was many things right in it, and there were many things wrong. And it was fascinating and very watchable. Some of the choices are weird.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Fred Durst's directing. Fred Durst appears to be a fine director.
Well, he also wrote it, too.
He co-wrote it.
Yeah.
Story by Fred Durst.
Okay.
Right? And screenplay by Fred Durst and some other guy. So Fred Durst kind of said, well, have him say this line, and the other guy structured it and wrote all the
Whose
dialogue.
idea was it to have them talk about how awesome Limp Bizkit is?
I don't know.
You like a little Limp Bizkit? Sure. You like a little biscuit? Yeah. Yeah? Nice and loud? I used to listen to this back in the day. This is hot. Oh my God, that is nice. That is nice.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I have to do some research on that.
Okay.
The part where Devon Sawa plays Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, tells his son about how awesome Limp Bizkit was back in the day.
I'm not sure if that may have been Fred Durst. I'll have to do some research, Jay.
Okay.
We'll have to do a really deep dive into the lore behind this film.
Yes.
I have a feeling it was Fred Johnson, the boom operator.
Oh, Fred.
Fred Johnson. He's a good boom operator, and he loves Limp Bizkit.
Well, speaking of the technical aspects of this movie, I was shocked. It got to the end credits, and it said cinematography by Conrad Hall. And I was like, that name sounds familiar. I think he worked on like David Fincher movies. And so I looked him up, and I made the most shocking discovery of my entire life.
Yeah.
Which is that there is a Conrad Hall that worked on David Fincher movies, but there is another Conrad Hall There's 2 cinematographers that are both working right now that are both named Conrad Hall.
Oh.
One of them was the cinematographer for American Beauty, and the other was the second unit photographer for American Beauty. Both Conrad Halls worked on American Beauty.
I almost had a shot of Conrad Hall walking out of Earth Bar.
Well, the cinematography, like, the look of the movie's great.
There's some nice shots, like towards the end, there's a shot where John Travolta's trying to escape Devon Sawa's house, and he's like on the ground, and he's kind of silhouetted by the door. It's like, this is a pretty good looking movie.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about time we get into spoilers. So, if you've enjoyed our discussion so far, go watch Fanatic.
Go watch the film and see what side of the John Travolta divide you land on.
Yeah, not The Fan, a movie with Robert De Niro.
Not Der Fan, a weird German movie about a musician that gets chopped up by a girl.
But now we're going to talk about the plot.
John Travolta is obsessed with Devon Sawa. There's the plot. It's very repetitive. It's like scene where John Travolta tries to interact with him, and Devon Sawa tells him to fuck off.
You say repetitive, I say building tension. His first encounter, well, first encounter is a non-encounter.
Yes.
His paparazzi friend, who looks about as old as John Travolta's great-great-granddaughter, who is hanging out with a man who is nearly 70 years old.
Yeah.
Clearly
and doesn't act like he's odd at all. It's very weird.
And looks like he could snap at any moment and needs to be institutionalized, but she thinks he's his warm and cuddly friend.
Yes.
Or her warm and cuddly friend. So she is working this like red carpet thing at a wrap party for a movie that Devon Sawa was in.
Yeah.
And she sneaks Moose in.
Oh my God, Moose, are you okay?
Am I all right?
Because she's working the gig by helping.
Apparently that's worth possibly losing your job.
It's worth losing your job letting a man in who looks and acts crazy and who could possibly be dangerous. She helps him hop a fence and sneak into the party so he can get an autograph. She's extremely naive.
Yes, yes.
So he goes in there, he tries to find Devon Sawa, he's not there.
I'm a #1 fan. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! I came here to see Hunter Dunbar. Leah! Leah! Leah!
Second encounter, Devon Sawa, aka Hunter Dunbar.
Hunter Dunbar, who the movie opens with a quote from him, which
Yes.
is a weird choice too.
It is a weird choice. They did whatever they could in post-production to save this movie. the voiceover from the girl is a post-production choice to save it, to make it more artsy, and so is the animated.
Oh yeah, there's like sketches.
Interscenes,
yeah, which are kind of cool looking. I like those.
Yeah, that they did it to add some artistic flair to it, to make it look like more of an art film.
To distract you from the fact that the movie has almost no plot.
Right. So he tries to get his autograph. He tries to get him to sign a jacket. He's at like a comic book kind of store, like a movie memorabilia store. Signing his book. John Travolta is next in line. Hunter Dunbar has to leave. And then
because he has problems with his ex-wife.
His ex-wife, yeah. So we get a little introduction of that, the ex-wife and the son, and then they first meet.
This is Space Vampires.
How would I sign your face with my fucking fist? That's a collector's item you're not gonna want to take home. Trust me.
Yes, sir.
This is, I think, a movie mistake, too. I think that's the problem with this movie, is that it comes across like, the theme of the movie, I guess, is that, like, everybody's shitty. I don't know what this movie was trying to say. Like, if the movie started out with Devon Sawa being, like, just a good guy, you know, maybe he's a little too nice, and that's what hooks Moose into wanting to get more and more involved with his life. But, like, the first thing he says is, like, I'm gonna punch you in the fucking face, John Travolta. So he's like an asshole from the beginning, and that never changes.
Yeah, if they were commenting on the parasocial relationship, then yes, you're right. Devon Sawa should have been more like, hey, buddy, yeah, sure, I'll sign that. And then that leads him to want more and more and more.
Which is a plot that's been done before, but at least it makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah. And based on the ending, Devon Sawa's turn at the end would have made it had different angle to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would have been more impactful when he starts stabbing John Travolta in the eye.
So he shows up at Hunter's house again, has a fight with him.
Same scene, basically.
Same scene,
Get the fuck away from me.
And then it just continues to escalate. And we don't want to just explain the movie, but he gets inside of his house.
That's the thing. He comes back again. He gets inside the house. He comes back again. He fucks around while Devon Sawa was sleeping in his chair, watching Night of the Living Dead, right?
Night of the Living Dead is in the flashback when Moose is a child. We get a 10-second flashback to when Moose was like maybe 10 years old, and he's watching Night of the Living Dead on TV, and in the background we see his mother, who's I don't know, being flirtatious with a gentleman caller. He's being neglected.
And that's the only flashback we get.
That's the only
and it's identical to a flashback in The Cable Guy with Jim Carrey.
When will I get a brother? You said I was gonna get a brother to play with.
Yeah, well, that's why Mommy's going to happy hour.
So it's a similar scene, and it looks like he's just a regular kid. It doesn't seem like he has any problems. So I think they're suggesting that because of parental neglect and overstimulation of watching movies by himself, that's what turned him into a socially awkward adult.
And that's the confusing thing too, is like Devon Sawa was an asshole, John Travolta is a lunatic, but making him have like mental problems, are we supposed to sympathize with him?
That's
you don't, of course, because he's terrifying.
You are
or hysterical, depending on how you look at it. But that's the thing. It's like you don't like either character, and then by the end of this movie, where Devon Sawa like blows his fingers off, and it's like pathetic when he's like stabbing. And John Travolta's like crying on the ground.
I know.
And I'm like, what am I supposed to be feeling here? I had no clue.
Yeah, I sympathize more with Devon Sawa because I'm just like, okay, sure, you know, he's kind of pompous. He's an asshole. He cheated on his wife with the maid.
Yeah.
It's alluded to that that's probably what broke up their marriage. But he doesn't want crazy John Travolta coming near his house.
Yes.
I get it.
Got it.
And then John Travolta, I think, is supposed to be portrayed as lovable. What is your takeaway? It's like, who is the hero and who is the villain? We don't know.
So it's kind of like Martin Scorsese's King of Comedy.
I want you out of here now. Is that plain enough?
I understand.
Is that clear?
Yeah, Jerry, I understand. Look, you're tired. That's okay. I'm gonna leave the stuff here, okay? Read it at your leisure and let me know what you think.
Rupert, don't be so dopey. Use your ears. The man is telling us to go.
He is not telling us to go. Will you stop that?
Mr. Langford, I just want you
Tell
to know
us she's
that
wrong,
I
Jerry,
know
please.
anything about
Robert De Niro's character, he's a little too obsessed with Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis is also kind of an asshole, but there is a very clear like humanity to both of them that this movie doesn't have with either of them.
Yeah. No, I mean,
that's a problem.
Well, sure, but I like that ambiguity of like, because I felt that both of these characters could have been real people. It would have been more satisfying from a film perspective to where there was clear lines of definition, where Devon Sawa was a nice guy and it was his own fault that he lured in this crazy person by being a little too open with him, and then now we got to draw the line. Yeah. Oh God, he's coming into my house, and we clearly sympathize with Hunter Dunbar. But I think the movie was trying to make John Travolta lovable, even though he clearly crossed the line many times.
When you find the cookie jar, it's hard to not go back for more.
It's true.
But I suppose when you find the cookie jar, it's hard to not go back for more.
Devon Sawa lives alone in his Hollywood mansion, and there is a maid there, and the maid is scared because she sees John Travolta running around their property. Later on, the maid confronts John Travolta on the property, and he kills her.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Are you okay?
And then for 45 minutes, it's never brought up again.
Yeah.
And that was a big flaw because the movie expected you to forget about it.
It's all I could think about after a while.
It was
when Devon Sawa was tied to the bed. I was like, what about the fucking maid?
Yeah. it's such an impactful moment, the audience cannot forget about it.
Yeah.
And I thought
Moose just murdered somebody.
Yeah. They also introduce a gardener character, and he's like, oh, you know, can I leave? It's raining. You know, so we assume he won't be back for a couple of days. So they introduce him because he's the one who finds the body. But it would have, like, the body is just laying there in broad daylight
for days,
and you could probably see it from his window. Like, I don't know. So if Moose had dragged the body into the bushes and kind of concealed it a little,
yeah,
that would have been a good choice in the movie, because then as an audience we would have like let it go a little.
Yeah.
But really, you're like, what about the maid? What about the maid?
Maybe every once in a while we cut to an exterior and you see those legs sticking out. We dolly in or something to keep reminding you.
Yes, that's fine. I mean, if you forget about it, that's great because it comes back as a surprise at the end. But the way they handled it, we could not forget about the maid. The maid is lying there dead. Nobody finds her for days.
Yeah.
And another, like, that's the thing with this movie is, like, there's all these great little ideas all over the place that I like. But all these screws are not quite tightened. and I just want to go in and kind of fix them. It's like that the photographer character should have been, didn't really need to be a photographer character. It should have been his adult daughter who checks in on him and says, you know, Dr. So-and-so says you're doing okay as long as you keep taking your pills.
Yeah.
Giving us real clear, like, lines of what's wrong with him.
Sure. Or the photographer character could be more, like, instead of that, a paparazzi person could just be another weirdo fan that takes things too far. I guess that's exactly Sandra Bernhard in King of Comedy.
Okay.
Here, I got money for you. I got plenty of money because I can't believe how long I've hung out with you and been your friend and listened to your tired, stale, boring jokes. Come on, here's $900.
You be quiet. You're yelling in the street.
No,
Like...
so take this and give it to Jerry, all right?
That's what it feels like someone that's helping him break into events and stuff. Like, doesn't feel like something that a professional, like a photographer working in the industry would
Someone
do.
who is...
It feels like something that another weirdo fan would do.
Yeah, but a weirdo fan who knows where the line is.
Yeah.
I am not a stalker. I am a fan, Leah.
His obsession with Devon Sawa, the nature of it is not quite clear, whether it's sexual in nature, plutonic, or jealousy.
I fooled under Dunbar. I'm such a good actor.
The characters are stagnant.
Yeah.
They are not dynamic characters. They don't really change. Devon Sawa is an asshole from the beginning, and then Travolta's crazy from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the intensity of the interaction increases from scuffle in the alley to get away from my gate to get the fuck out of my house. That it escalates, but the nature of the characters don't really change.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's close to King of Comedy, where, you know, yeah, like you said, if John Travolta was just kind of like a normal guy who liked movies and stuff like that, and then got worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
As Hunter Dunbar was more open, and then he becomes closed, and then they both kind of, and escalates to some kind of dramatic conclusion.
I'm thinking the comedic version is, do you remember What About Bob?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of what happens in that movie?
Yeah.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
What About Bob? Rated PG.
It was very comical when Devon Sawa was tied to the bed. I think he gets loose. I don't remember specifically what happens, but he has a shotgun, like above his bed. But the way it's framed, he just sort of reaches above frame and pulls the gun down, and it looked like a Naked Gun gag.
Yeah, but was that established in a master shot or something?
I don't think so. I think he just reaches up and pulls down
I
a gun.
remember thinking the shotgun came out of nowhere. But,
yeah, but I think that's the idea, is that it's supposed to be above like his headboard.
Yeah. So John Travolta ties him to the bed, you know, Misery style. Kathy Bates wants to smash James Caan's legs or feet.
Well, she doesn't want him to leave so he can finish his book.
To further keep him immobile so he could finish his book.
Right.
Got it. Does John Travolta want to have sex with him?
At one point he berates him about, he's like, you should be a better dad, you should have ice cream in your fridge for your son.
Yeah.
And then the next minute he's like, even though he's a fan of him as an actor, then he starts berating him about acting. I could be an actor.
Right.
And so I was like, I don't know what he wants.
Well, then he comes out in a Jason costume.
Then he has full Jason Voorhees.
And stabs him, pretends to stab him.
Wait!
And then says, you were no Jamie Lee Curtis or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's the wrong movie.
Do people still put on hockey masks and try to scare you?
It's the wrong movie, baby.
Right, but do people ever do that? What, Michael Myers? Oh, he pulled on the mask.
He was like, no.
Devon Sawa then, interestingly, instead of just saying, I'm gonna fucking punch your fucking face, he appeals to him. He talks to him like he wants to be his friend and convinces John Travolta to untie him.
Well, he says he's going to sign autographs for him.
Yeah. I will sign whatever you want, whenever you want.
You sign for me?
For a real fan.
You sign for me?
And it's like, is that the entire thing? Did John Travolta just want autographs? Because that's kind of where it starts. And there's a bizarre creative decision here where like the camera has like this purple tint to it.
That's the fantasy element.
That's where, again, feels like it's supposed to be romantic or something.
But then, Devon Sawa gets both of his arms free and then shoots a shotgun.
That's when the magical shotgun comes out of nowhere.
Yep, and blows John Travolta's fingers off. John Travolta runs away, falls down the stairs. Hunter Dunbar gets all of his ropes off, and then he starts like shooting at him to scare him.
Yeah, I think. Well, he has like his ear rings from the shotgun blast.
And then he takes out a Rambo knife and stabs him in the eye.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just the tip.
Not enough to puncture the brain.
Yeah.
But enough to seriously wound him, and then it's like.
That's
sad.
Well, it should be sad because as bad as John Travolta's been, it's still like this is a human being.
Yeah.
But it's
Were you
again,
laughing?
I was laughing because it's so awkward and confusing. I didn't know how to react.
And then
does he just let him go at that point?
Inexplicably,
Yeah.
Devon Sawa opens the door. John Travolta stumbles out and he closes the door.
Doesn't call the cops for some reason.
The next day, the cops show up with the gardener who has discovered the body of the maid. There is motive for Devon Sawa to have killed the maid because presumably she was involved with him in an affair that cost him his marriage.
Right.
And then Devon Sawa submits to the police with no, wait a minute, wait.
He doesn't say a word. He just accepts the fact that he's being arrested for the murder of someone that he didn't murder. I didn't understand any of this.
But Jay, we don't see what happens when he arrives at the police station.
That's true.
They read him his Miranda rights. He says, okay, I'm gonna wait. At the police station, he spills it all. John Travolta came in my house with
a Jason Voorhees mask.
With a bad wig on. Also, the thing too is John Travolta is alive and out there with missing fingers and a stab wound in his eye.
But yeah, then he gets the fame as a street performer that he's always wanted. I guess is what's happening there.
Are you talking about the moment where the foreign guys?
The foreign guys are like, "Oh, that's great makeup," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, I don't know if that was supposed to be like sad for him, like, "Oh no, he's really injured, help him," you know.
Yeah,
but
I took it as like, cause yeah, he's earlier we see him doing his poppycock.
Poppycock. Poppycock.
And no one's paying attention to him.
Yeah, it's implied that he will go on to be a famous street performer because the paparazzi girl finds him, obviously.
Randomly?
Yeah, she's driving by. Oh my gosh, she obviously gets him medical attention, but he can now be a really good pirate street performer because they had a cartoon and it has him with a hook hand. And he stabbed his eye out. So he wears an eye patch and a hook hand, and now he can be a pirate. That is shown in a cartoon.
I don't remember that cartoon.
Yeah. And it's him, and she's behind him, and she has like angel wings.
Oh, yeah, I remember the wings. Yeah.
But he has a pirate hook hand and eye patch because Devon Sawa put a Rambo knife in his eye. So now he could be a really fucking good pirate on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He could even show people, I'm really missing an eye, and make a lot of money. And achieve his dreams of making an adequate living as a Hollywood street performer.
Most of those people that perform in front of the Grauman's Chinese Theater are like homeless people.
Well,
they don't make any money.
I mean, he's almost there.
But now he can be a pirate, I guess.
And like real pirates of old, he got away with murder. Because Devon Sawa will not say that he did not murder the maid. And he will not tell about the home invasion by a crazy person, even though the police probably would have walked around his house and said, why are all these ropes on your bed? Yeah. And what is with this puddle of blood on the floor?
Oh, yeah, and we have social media pictures of a guy in your house while you're asleep.
You've been using your social media to broadcast criminal activities.
Very easily, Devon Sawa could convince the police of what the truth was. Mm-hmm. And very quickly, because any character can find any character very easily.
Yeah, they just show up everywhere.
They can very quickly find Moose and arrest him. It'll be hard putting handcuffs on.
Bizarre movie, bizarre choices, interesting performances. We've just done a deep dive on it. Other people that have talked about this movie, it's just, it's funny bad, but it's more interesting than that.
The mechanics of it are interesting, and the choices are interesting. Whether it's a performance choice or a plot choice, I found John Travolta's performance very intriguing. I bought his performance as a person with severe mental problems, and I enjoyed it.
It does make me wonder if it was in a completely different movie, if it would have a different sort of reaction from me, because with the way the rest of this movie operates, I found everything he did hilarious.
Fred Durst's direction wasn't bad.
It is fine.
I think it was the mechanics of the script and the story. So I'm glad we took this movie and we really analyzed it, because it needs it. It's someone just going, watch this movie, John Travolta. He looks like an idiot. He's got this weird haircut.
To be fair, I do think that is a big selling point of the movie.
It is, but to me the performance wasn't like I'm laughing, at it. It's hard to. I mean, maybe.
I just keep thinking of him as that English Bobby.
Maybe from an actor perspective, like you laugh at Rosie O'Donnell in her film.
Hey Jesse, look what I'm doing! I'm making a cookie mountain.
We're not awful, terrible people. We don't laugh at people like that.
No.
It's the fact that that actor is trying to pull it off.
Yes.
And it's a very hard thing to pull off, without it coming off as like I want an award, or I'm making this bold choice as an actor. I'm taking on this challenge. Robert Downey Jr. said it best.
He knew what he was talking about when he wore that blackface. Yeah. So I guess we're recommending the movie, right?
A lot of people that watch our show are fans of film, film writing, construction. They watch us talk because they like to hear about a deeper analysis of a movie. And if you like that sort of thing, this is a movie to watch based on that. Not necessarily for entertainment value, because as we said a few times so far, it's not laughably bad. It's not The Room.
Right.
It's not a movie like that. But it's not a really good movie that should win awards for this or that.
Yeah.
But it's fairly well done with lots of problems. So if you were an aspiring filmmaker or a screenwriter or whatever, it's a good movie to watch. Or if you like watching things like that, it's like watching a moderate train wreck. You know what I'm saying?
Where you're like, I see how that could have been prevented.
Right.
Yeah.
That train, like, it hit that orange truck, kind of, to where it kind of smashed it a little, and a bunch of oranges spilled out on the road.
Yeah.
It didn't derail. The guy who was driving the orange truck, he broke his leg.
Yeah.
He got smashed. He broke his hip, and the train hit him. And really, that's really kind of neat to look at. But it's not a flaming, disastrous wreck.
Sure.
That's my thoughts on it. You seem to laugh more.
It's specifically at John Travolta. The rest of the movie, like I said, like it's not that bad. It's just him. It's like taking something that shouldn't be in this movie and dropping it in this movie.
It's a Saturday Night Live skit kind of thing.
Yeah, like when you have a celebrity guest on Saturday Night Live that's not known for doing comedy. I think we brought that up before, like when you have like a football player or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, you just threw everything off.
Well, sun's going down. It's almost nighttime. Time to head out to the Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, I'm assuming a lot of people don't realize that we moonlight as performers on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah. You have a picture, right?
Oh yeah, here.